Rena Cole didn't walk into that courtroom to be seen. She walked in to make things right. Dressed like someone who belonged anywhere, but in front of a judge, she seemed like just another concerned woman standing up for her younger brother. What no one in that room knew. Rena didn't come to argue. She came to close a chapter and possibly open a case. The temperature in the courtroom wasn't from the air vents. It was from the weight in the air. That dense, quiet kind of tension that builds when people assume everything is under control, until it isn't. At exactly 9:03 a.m., the double doors pushed open, not loudly, but enough to grab attention. Rena stepped through, coat buttoned, flat silent against the tile. Her presence didn't announce itself, but the shift in atmosphere did. Eyes followed her not out of respect, but suspicion, like she had walked into a place where people like her weren't expected to speak. Her brother, Jamal, sat alone at the defense table, wrists cuffed, head down. When Rena took the empty seat beside him, a security officer moved in quick, palm brushing his holster. "Ma'am," he snapped, "only licensed attorneys may sit with the defendant. Identification." Without a word, Rena handed him a folded letter. He read it, paused, then turned toward the bench. Judge Calvin Morley, who had been shuffling through paperwork, looked up only when the officer leaned in to whisper. His eyebrows lifted, surprised, maybe annoyed. "Representing yourself? Are we?" he said dryly. "Interesting. Representing my client," Rena said evenly. "I'm standing in as counsel." "This is felony court, Ms. Cole," the judge said with a smirk. "Not some after-school program." Jamal shifted in his seat, but Rena didn't blink. "Respectfully, I know the law. I worked both sides of it." Morley chuckled. "Reading about law and practicing it aren't the same." "I didn't read about it," she said calmly. "I enforced it." The judge leaned forward, eyes narrowing. But he let it go. For now, as the state prosecutor began outlining a vague web of accusations, possible associations, suggestive activity, connections worth noting, Rena waited. They didn't offer hard evidence, just veiled implications tied to Jamal's name like bad rumors. Once the prosecutor sat down, Rena rose. "We request immediate access to all forensic reports related to the firearm allegedly found in the vehicle. Ballistics, chain of custody, fingerprint analysis." Morley didn't meet her eyes. "The weapon was in the trunk of the car your brother was driving. Let's not chase shadows." "The car wasn't his," Rena replied, "and the gun had no prints, confirmed in the arrest report." Finally, Morley looked up, not at the file, but directly at her. "What I see," he said, voice heavy with judgment, "is someone dressing up street drama in legalese. A paralegal with a hero complex." Snickers murmured through the gallery. Jamal flinched, but Rena stood firm. "Objection," she said, to the judge's commentary. "Sarcasm isn't illegal, Ms. Cole," he replied. "No," she said, "but neither is respect." That landed. Even the prosecutor shifted in his seat. They moved forward, slowly. Rena took every opportunity to request facts, demand records, call out inconsistencies. She didn't posture. She didn't perform. But something in her presence pulled gravity. And then came the moment that changed everything. A young witness named Marcus, no older than 20, shuffled to the stand. Nervous, eyes darting. He clung to the witness chair like it might eject him. "Marcus," Rena asked gently, "you said you saw my brother on October 14th. Can you describe what you saw?" I saw someone," he stammered. "Running. I think they had something." "Did you see who it was?" Rena asked. "I was told it was Jamal. The detective said he already confessed." "Marcus," she said, taking a step closer, "did you see Jamal that night? Or were you told you saw him?" The room went still. "They told me to say it," Marcus whispered. "Said I'd get charged if I didn't back it up." Gasps. Small, but sharp. The judge slammed his gavel. "This witness isn't." "He's not speculating," Rena said coldly. "He's admitting coercion." "You're out of line," Morley barked. "And you're out of order if you think threatening witnesses is just part of the job," she snapped. A murmur stirred. One clap sounded. Then silence. Not the kind that crushes. The kind that listens. The judge was losing control. Back at the table, Jamal leaned in. "You used to do this With students, he whispered. Rena nodded. Every Tuesday. In the back, a man in a navy vest, arms folded the entire trial, shifted for the first time. He nodded, not with approval, but recognition. Then, without warning, the courtroom doors burst open. 3 federal agents stepped in. The lead one, sharp suit, stone eyes, approached the bench. Judge Calvin Morley, he said, you're under arrest. Charges followed: civil rights violations, obstruction, abuse of authority. Morley stuttered. You can't be serious. We are. They turned to Rena. Agent Cole, the man said. Thank you. She didn't respond. She didn't have to. She simply pulled out an old badge wallet, frayed at the corners, and placed it on the bench. Then turned back to Jamal. Outside, the reporters gathered. Are you returning to the bureau? One called. Rena glanced toward the sun, smiled faintly. No, this wasn't about that, she said. This was personal. And with that, she walked down the courthouse steps, her brother beside her, a free man. In the end, Rena Cole didn't leave that courtroom as just a sister or a woman with a past. She walked out as a reckoning, proof that silence isn't surrender and restraint doesn't mean weakness. Justice didn't come with fireworks that day. It didn't roar through a megaphone or wave a flag. It simply stood its ground in the form of a woman who refused to sit down when it mattered most. What happened inside that courtroom wasn't just about one man being falsely accused or even about a corrupt judge finally facing consequences. It was about what happens when someone who's been pushed out of the system walks back in. Not with anger, but with clarity, preparation, and purpose. Rena didn't storm the gates. She walked through them like they'd always belonged to her. She didn't need to shout to be heard. She didn't need permission to act. She knew what it meant to be underestimated, written off, dismissed, and she used that invisibility as her sharpest edge. In a place where truth is often buried beneath formality, she made it impossible to ignore. Not by force, but by being undeniable. The people in that room, jurors, officers, onlookers, even the agents who came from Morley, didn't just witness a legal twist. They watched the power dynamic shift in real time. They saw what it looks like when someone holds the system accountable without playing by its rigged rules. And that kind of moment leaves a mark, not just on headlines, but on hearts. When Rena stepped outside, she didn't pause for the cameras. She didn't stop for sound bites. She had already said everything that needed to be said, without raising her voice. And that, more than anything, was the statement. So, if you're listening to this, remember, justice isn't always loud. It doesn't always wear robes or hold microphones. Sometimes, it wears quiet shoes, carries old scars, and shows up on behalf of those who no longer believe anyone will. And when it does, it changes everything. Because the most powerful thing in any room isn't authority. It's truth, and the people brave enough to carry it, no matter the cost.